Hello, this is Microtrain World again, looking at all things scale 1 to 220. This is series 1, all about buildings and building kits. So this is the second part. I published a short video on Wildenstein's castle, it's Kibri Z model 36402, on the contents in the box. And in this video, I'm going to take a look at the steps that I took when I was building it, and there's also some pictures towards the end of the finished castle in place on one of the layouts that I have built. So we'll start with the base. As I said, nice in the previous video, if you've watched it, it's quite a nice thing to work with and handle. So really, this was a lot was built up before I put anything else on. So the focus here was just toning down the greys, some primer on here, and general brown paints being added. This is just the first layers to get them in. I also chose a different coloured stone for the public areas in the castle space itself. This allowed me then to add a sort of sandy colour for the paths and highlight that a little bit with the edging stone edges. Again, working around the model, giving some images of that. In the end, it gave a nice overall effect. Then I started to layer on some greens. I kind of wanted to be this as a tourist destination to add a little bit more to it. So I thought I'd put in some formal gardens and also this area on the left, which I wasn't sure what to do with, but I decided to turn that into a sort of formal kind of rose garden. I thought it would be cool to come down those steps. And then you step into this formal space. So I just began to fill that. Again, with more green working around, starting to build it up a little bit more each time. Little blue markers that you can see there are blue tack. So I would be placing the walls up against this to see what it looked like as I was building it, how it might look. The walls themselves, again, I spoke earlier about the scale of this, but these were done in this darker brown stone, and then they took a nice wash to pick up the grouting in between. The overall effect actually was very pleasing. This is very close up, so you get to see all the flaws on the model itself. It created quite a nice result. Again, working around the rest of the walls. Complete those. Then I completed the buildings that were on the walls in the same color scheme. Tend to paint on the sprue most of the time and then tidy up before final fitting. So we go around there, see the gates there, one of the gates over the wall. Then start the process of gluing the walls on to the side. This is all very sort of nice and easy. You need to sort of do a bit of filing, but you also see there's quite large gaps between the joints and between the walls, but also against the stone itself. In the end, I went around and filled all these to improve the view. You can see here as I'm going around, I'm identifying the parts and using blue tack to fit them, get them into place. So they kind of look right. They also need somebody holding in place while they're being glued. And then you can see here that the walls are pretty now much complete. And already it was actually quite a nice, cool model. You can do quite a lot with it to add more detail. You can see the steps there down into the area. In fact, this was prior to me painting it, so these probably have dropped a little bit out of sequence, but doesn't matter. Okay, so those are the walls in place. There's a bit of tidying up to do. You can see bits of extra plastic and things that aren't needed. Big gaps in the walls in some areas. But in general, this is the first fit on the layout. It was going to go to fill a hole, which I'd had before, which I didn't know what to do with. There's just some sort of sighting shots as I'm working out what kind of views you might have of it from lower down in the model, as if you were actually on the model visiting this area. So with the walls done, now onto the detail for the main buildings. They were all painted white. They were in that lighter plastic already. And then I ran a sort of lighter wash over the walls just to produce a little bit of staining. I was quite pleased with the results, to be honest. The first time I played with that. And then I picked out some of the details in stone colours for the window arches and so on. The modelling is actually quite rough and ready when you try to get to this detail. So, but again, overall, pleased with the result when I got that done. More of the tower with those lovely plastic pre-coloured pieces, the window shutters in place. It started to look quite cool. The roofs I did paint, tone down the reddy colour, but also to provide a couple of layers on top, bit of weathering maybe, but also helps in terms of I was going to light it. I didn't want lighting to come through. Then we have the areas which are towards the back. So these are kind of joining between the tower and the main building. There's a little verandahed walkway at the back of this model. So these were done in a different sort of grey colour. And then I picked out some of the roof details with gold paint. It took several coats to put on, but in the end, pretty good result. Detailed up the wooden pieces, picking out the gate shapes, window frames, details on the door, just to break up the colour and give a little bit more interest to the model. Window frames, they look a bit messy here, but when they're actually in the model, they're okay. I used a mixture here, just experimenting with pen ink, permanent ink, but also paint. So these were just test models on the glass areas, and then started to build the kit. First went in some of the freestanding buildings. It's quite a nice and easy kit to put together, and you can see the results actually with the detailing in there. It looks okay. Another building that goes into the wall. There's specific slots for these, so they're quite easy to fit onto the model when they're done. And then another final building that goes in with some details on it as well. This is one of the dry runs of the actual tower and accommodation, just making the Schloss put together. It is very awkward in the different heights, so I put this into the base, put it together, glued the buildings, because once they're set, aligning them all up afterwards is quite difficult. So that's one view of the set. Some more, you can see the rear area here with the verandahed walkways and the details being picked out on it as we turn it around. So overall, this is the building. I took some of these pictures in here because you can see not only is it complex in terms of the heights of the various components, but actually the angles they all go together in also makes it a little bit tricky. And of course, if you do this, it's all right if you do it on the model and it's permanent, but if you wanted to have this to be capable of being removed for moving the layout, you're faced with other challenges. So there's a lot of blue tack being put into these areas to hold it all in the right position while the glue sets. And also filling, again, more filling. I think I use a sort of dry putty to fill the gaps in the walls. Again, to stop light to get out, but also to make it look a bit more neater. So some pictures then. These were taken before it went onto the layout. You can see here the final details of the rose garden. Managed to put some people in there working. There are 2 lighting circuits. There are very small LEDs being used as spotlights. You'll be able to see them here, but also the warmer white colours for inside the building. The roofs are loose, and what I actually found is just with the roof sitting on top was a very nice effect of sort of light escape, as if they all had uplighters on them. So again, showing more of the detail. You can see here the spot lamps, but I also added the furniture for the cafe in there as well, just to give it a little bit more detailing. And then another shot. So yes, it's a nice model and it works very well. This is a vertical shot down on the model as it was placed in its final position on the layout. I added the area around it, so that whole panel that you see around it lifts up to give access to underneath the layout, just in case a train derails. And these are some shots of it in position, finally in position, on the shot, the layout, which there'll be another video on that one coming up soon. So again, going around the castle in its finished position. So as I said, nice model. I liked it. It worked quite well. There's a bit of tidying up on it. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you get one of these, good luck. Thank you very much indeed.